Good morning. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Breakfast Central. We apologize for starting slightly behind schedule, but from here on, it's going to be a smooth cruise as we look at some of the stories happening within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. Speaking of outside Nigeria, Botswana elections starts today, and we'll be bringing you live updates from our correspondent, Bongani Sisiba, who's live in Botswana. I'm Olive Emodi, and you're welcome to the show.
And I am Osaogi Ogbonwa. Of course, my role is to remind you to be a part of the conversations we're having this morning by simply tweeting at News Central TV. Share your thoughts with us on any of the conversations, and of course, including those who are watching us on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us. Botswana, yes, will be deciding today and tomorrow, and we continue to follow and see how the elections turn out in Botswana, that very, very beautiful Southern African country. But aside what's going on in Botswana, let's come back to Nigeria. Of course, big conversation in the last couple of days. Aside, Nigerians may be starting to see bits and pieces of another petrol scarcity. The NNPC not being certain, or rather, Nigerians not being certain if the NNPC has increased the price of petrol to 1,060 naira or not. They did put out a message. We're going to be x-raying that as well. But also, the House of Rep member, Mascot Ikweche, yesterday put out an apology letter and, of course, shared his apology with other members of the House. But many Nigerians are not buying it, and if you look at the reactions to his apology, you'd see a lot of, the comments of, people saying they're not buying it, nobody buys this, and mostly still asking that some level of punitive measures be taken to deter other Nigerian lawmakers who maybe would once in a while get power drunk and abuse fellow citizens. And if you do not see a proper punitive measure being taken, it maybe wouldn't end. It's not the first time that we're seeing this. We're not expecting that it would be the last time. And if all you need to do is come the next morning, wear white agbada and cap, and read out an apology, if that's all, then we're never going to see an end to this.
I think there's so many things to even say about the apology. We have graphics. Let's share with you exactly what he said. This looks like his
this is from the House.
The House itself, right?
And in this response, they're saying that they would like a fair hearing. They're not going to immediately take punitive measures against the reps member. I think it was Ben Kalu. I listened to him say, some of all those things.
But maybe we should actually play the video, just the beginning part of what he said, and so that our audience can get to hear the apology that he gave. And this is the apology for constantly slapping a taxi driver and telling him, I will lock you in my generator house, I'll beat you up, I could get you missing and nothing will happen. Let's take a listen.
I just want to state once again that I am human. Even though things were said, and those things I regret. I apologize to all Nigerians. Regardless of the provocation, there should be no reason why I should react in that form. So I want to use this opportunity to appeal to all Nigerians. Let us let what has happened remain in the past, and let us forge forward.
Let us let what happened remain in the past and let us forge forward. Doesn't look like quite the apology the Nigerians were waiting for. Was lacking of the emotions that Nigerians expected it to carry. Regardless of what it is, the passion with which he was threatening at the beginning was lacking in that apology. But again, it's beyond the apology. Whilst we must agree that the apology is very, very important, it's also beyond the apology. Like Osagi said earlier, it's important to set deterrence. We will continually see an abuse of power and leaders taking advantage of their citizens and treating them in a despicable manner, forgetting that it is the citizens that put you in power to serve them. We've seen a lot of calling out happening lately. Mr. Macaroni Debo, popularly known as Mr. Macaroni, called out the Minister of the FCT, former Governor Nyesom Wike, for how he also spoke to citizens. And he put out this tweet. I don't know, a number of us must have seen the video where Nyesom Wike was talking to citizens, and then he came down, and when he came down from the car, he said, "Is it because I came down to talk to you?" And this is something that, Nyesom Wike has also been criticized for, the lack of intentionality with which he addresses citizens. There's a certain tone with which these leaders talk to citizens, almost like they're doing you a favor, almost like it's an honor for you to be speaking with them. And they forget that without these citizens, without the citizens, you know, I mean...
So it's not, in my opinion, it's not that they forget.
Okay, it's not that they forget. Yes, I take that back. It's that they do not care, and they know that there's nothing that will be done. There's no repercussion. They have so much impunity.
So there is the part where there are no repercussions, but it's not that they forget that it's citizens who put them in power. It is that they have also realized that they don't necessarily need citizens. So we have a very flawed, I think everybody accepts this, that we have a very flawed leadership recruitment process. There's very minimal trust for the Independent National Electoral Commission and the other, factors that should put people in leadership positions and, create lawmakers. Yes, Wike, for example, the FCT minister didn't have to go through any election. He was appointed by the president. Yes. So he's not necessarily needing the people, at this point. But even prior to that, there has been a large or very minimal trust as to the electoral process in Rivers State. The presidential elections in Rivers State were very, very, very well spoken about by concerned Nigerians who witnessed that election. And so these people, and not just the FCT minister now, the average lawmaker doesn't necessarily value you and your vote because they have this feeling that it's not necessarily just your vote. Honorable Mascot Ikweche, for example, didn't win his election to make himself, where he is currently, representative for Aba North and South. He didn't win his election. It was another person, Namani something, Okeke Namani, I can't remember his name, that won that election. The courts then dissolved that, electoral victory and then awarded it to Maxwell Ikweche because the person who won, a Labour Party candidate who won, had issues with his educational certificates. So Maxwell, not Maxwell now, Mascot rather, didn't win the election. It's not because the people of Aba North voted him in large numbers. So he doesn't necessarily have any gratitude to express to the people of Aba North and South. There's that part. But I think it's the general idea between many Nigerian politicians and the electoral process that gets them into office and the people. There's definitely a flaw in that thinking process.
And I think also we as the people have a responsibility to play. There's a psychophancy that is generally seen with the way that citizens revere political leaders, right? There's a certain respect you should give to them, yes, but sometimes I think we overdo it. For example, you see the people that are going about singing praise and worship for Nyesom Weekend. That's certain adoration that citizens give to political office holders because it makes, yes, the power worship is a lot, and it makes them feel that they are gods and makes them feel like, you can't do without them. And that's what gives a number of them the audacity to act the way that they do. And the one thing I'm glad and grateful for is the collective unity of Nigerians in calling out Alex Ikweche, realizing that what he's done is wrong, and calling him out. Although we've seen this happen before. We've seen it happen with Senator Elisha Abo, nothing came out of it. We've seen it happen several other times. It's how this matter will be handled that will be a determining factor as to whether this is going to be the norm, where political office holders, get into office, lawmakers and all the likes, get into office and then abuse the people that put them there, the people whom they are meant to lead from, lead by service, as opposed to leading from a place of bullying and intimidation.
Also, they know that every electoral cycle, there is a possibility of spending 5,000 naira per vote and buying enough votes to get yourself elected. These are some of the things that make the people, the voters, the electorate, not have the level of relevance that they should have. So when you say, the people put you in office, the average Nigerian politician doesn't really see it that way.
Because they are buying their votes anyway.
Because it's not everybody, but because there's those aspects where that all you need to do is campaign with rhetoric. You're not campaigning with actual facts and data and things that you actually will do for the people. You can really just talk your way, into office. And of course, you can buy some votes here and there.
Well, let's hope that...
And that happens.
Let's hope that this buying of votes that you mentioned, is not something that will be prevalent in Botswana's elections. The elections are happening today. And we have our correspondent, Bongani Siziba, over there to bring us live updates. Good morning, Bongani. What's happening in Botswana?
Good morning, Olive, and also good morning to our viewers. Yes, the lines have started to grow very long here in Botswana. Elections have started and voting has started. I'll just ask my camera person just to show you around how the queues are big here. Voters are waiting to pass that final vote. We know that the elections have started here this morning and it will end around 6. But let me take it to some of the voters who are here just to get their concerns and also how they are going to vote and also to understand the kind of political situation here in Botswana. Good morning, ma'am. Are you voting today? And what are your expectations?
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Penny Sedgwick, and I'm a citizen of Botswana. Today, I will be voting. So my expectations really is that the government or party that I choose puts much input rather in the healthcare system, education of Botswana, as well as try further to diversify our economy, moving a little bit further from diamonds.
Yes, we have heard one of the voters that is here, their expectations. Actually, I've been speaking to many people. I hear the voters who are on the queue. Many of them are talking about change. But let me speak to other people against the voting. Yes, you are voting today. Why are you voting? What has made you to say today I'm going to vote?
We're here really to cast our vote because we want to see some improvement in our country. So that's why I've been here to come here.
And your expectations for the incoming government?
The expectations are very clear. We're looking at the health sector. We want an improvement on the health sector. We want an improvement on the education sector. We want water. There are some villages that are still experiencing severe water shortages, such as the Omulepolole village. So we're expecting that the incoming government will improve that.
Yes, let's just track someone. Thank you, sir, for joining us. You're voting today. Why? Your expectations. And do you think the government has done enough for citizens?
My expectations for the incoming government really are to bring improvements for everyone in the country. I think everyone has their own grievances and everyone expects to see those grievances addressed. We have a lot of youth unemployment, a lot of poverty throughout the country, declining education system, declining health. So we need to see improvements across the board in every aspect. And the everyday ordinary citizen needs to be empowered to know that they have entitlements, they have rights, and they must be treated with dignity and respect. So that's my expectation for the incoming government. And I'm voting for this. I'm voting for change. I'm voting for a new direction. I believe that when things are not going right, you need to change direction. So that's what I'm voting for today. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you so much. Only we have just heard from the voters who are in the queues what they will be voting for. And many of them that are here are the youth. And I've been talking to one lady who said she is a first-time voter and she is going to vote for change. So what basically the Botswana people are saying, they are going to vote for change, but there are those who still believe in the government. It's back to you in the studio now.
All right, thank you, Bongani, for bringing us the update from Botswana. We are hoping that a number of the challenges that we see here in Nigeria regarding maybe getting voters to show up earlier or getting the officials to show up early and being able to get accurate results. We hope that we don't see that replicated there, but we will be following up with you all through the day on other shows regarding the updates of Botswana elections. All right. We'll connect to Bongani shortly, maybe before the show wraps up. But now let's share with you what our top stories are this morning. Right. Whilst we're trying to get that up, just to share with you that our top stories will look at us highlighting what's happening regarding the local government elections. Governor Oti shunning the party's flag off. But also the fuel price hits 1,025, 1,060 in Lagos, FCT, and even the NNPCA has come out to say that they're not aware. We'll be looking at that. Ondo residents gear up towards January 18th local government elections, even as the gubernatorial elections come up next month. Alex Ikweche apologizes for assault on e-hailing driver, and Governor Oti shuns party's flag off in local government elections. We also will be reviewing the newspaper front pages with you and having you join us via phone lines as well as our analysts. All these and more on Breakfast Central. Governor Alex Oti on Tuesday was conspicuously absent from the Labour Party's flag-off of campaigns for the local government election on Saturday, November 2nd, 2024. Also, absent were Deputy Governor Ikechukwu Emetu, National and State Assembly members of Labour Party, and aides of the governor. News Central's Chinwe Ugele brings more in this report.
Tuesday's flag-off of campaigns for the ruling Labour Party in Abia State has answered the questions of where the governor stands in the internal crisis of the party. Throughout the program, which took place at the Abari Creation Club, no serving elected or appointed public officer in the state of Labour Party showed presence, although the party faithful hoped for otherwise.
In Abia State, Dr. Alex Oti is our leader, our political leader. The governor himself is still a Labour Party member, and I believe he must surely support his own.
This may also be a confirmation to claims that the governor has his preferred candidate for the elections sponsored through Zenith Labour Party. Zenith Labour Party had last week also flagged off campaigns in Aba with aides of Governor Alex Oti present as the candidates turned out to be former Labour Party members and loyalists of the governor. The National Vice Chairman Southeast of the Labour Party, CKE Gara, and the State Party Chairman Prince Ndubeze at their flag-off say the party will always uphold the principles that earned it victory at the 2023 polls.
Once you get the people's choice, you have little or nothing to do as campaign. Because it is the people's choice, the people will campaign for him, the people will stand to defend him, the people will also contribute to make sure he succeeds.
Let every other party that are represented in Abia State give them the opportunity to be in this contest so that the best will emerge.
Candidates and various party faithful are putting their faith in the electoral body in the conduct of the coming election.
We believe in the ability of the APSEC chairman. He has promised to deliver a free, fair, credible election. So we believe he will do justice and give a level playing field for all parties to participate.
And of course, we are the government in power, and the candidates that we have across the 17 local governments are pure reflection of the will of the people.
I find this is going to be a test for the governor of Abia State, because we know it's free and fair election that bring him as the governor. So we are expecting him to do the free and fair election.
Okay. You're sure of what?
Having victory. If the governor allow this election to be free and fair.
From the sales of form to the process of screening, they have been very, very fair to all the political parties.
Although the chairman of the Abia State Independent Electoral Commission has become press shy lately, the commission seems partly ready with some non-sensitive materials, even as the long-awaited list of candidates has been published. In Omaha for News Central, I am Chinwe Ugele.
Thank you very much, Chinwe Ugele, for that report. We will be following up with all that's going on regarding the Labour Party and exactly what Governor Alex Oti's next steps will be and what this might mean for the party's strength at the next elections. But let's move on to have a conversation about abuse of office and abuse of power. The recent assault on an e-hailing driver, Stephen Abuaseya, by a Nigerian lawmaker, Alex Ikweche, has sparked outrage, with some Nigerians calling for the lawmaker's resignation. Ikweche was caught on video striking the driver, Stephen Abuaseya, 2 times, and threatening to make a third strike and to make him disappear because the driver refused to accord him the reverence he seemingly felt entitled to.
Now, if you remember, in 2019, Nigerian Senator Elisha Abo similarly assaulted a woman in the Federal Capital Territory, an act that provoked outrage among Nigerians and led to a judicial fine of 50 million naira. Now, Alex Ikweche's actions brings attention to a trend of abuse of power among the country's political class. This incident underscores the systemic disregard for citizens' rights and the rule of law in Nigeria. Joining us is human rights lawyer Festus Ogun to, of course, share his thoughts on some of the last 48 hours in Nigeria. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so, I mean, the lawmaker has put out an apology yesterday, and, of course, read it in the House of Reps as well. Would you say that's good enough? Are we fine?
I believe apology is not enough. And the reason is very simple. The members of House of Assembly, members of National Assembly, the elected governors, and the president and his vice president, they are citizens of Nigeria who are elected into power. And we expect that they act above board. They are a reflection of how our society ought to be. If a member of House of Representatives assaults citizens physically and verbally and says he knows he should report to whosoever, he even describes himself as a senator, that demonstrates that there is impunity in the land. That demonstrates that they believe they are above the law and they believe there are no consequences for impunity. Look at it. This hailing driver or rider was described by the honorable member as a rat. The driver was practically described as an animal. But I was not surprised when I saw it, because I know that the eye with which Nigerian political elites view the Nigerian citizen is one between, being a second class. They view us essentially as a second-class citizen, which is why he had the boldness to have done what he did. You must not forget that if the honorable member was not caught on camera, there wouldn't have been an apology. If the matter had not escalated to the media, there is most likely not going to be an apology. But what he has done is a crime. I believe that the law should take its course. But again, he has said it, that he should report to whosoever, because he knows that nothing is going to happen. And that is where we stand. That, well, you might apologize, but that does not stop the Nigerian police force to do its duty of ensuring that a person that has committed a reported case of assault must be charged to court and prosecuted accordingly.
I'm glad that you mentioned assault. Like, on the face of that video, when you look at it, what are the charges that you can easily see when watching that video?
Well, there is a case of assault. Clear case of assault. Threat to life. Obviously, you are saying that he is going to disappear in the country at a time when enforced disappearance is a common phenomenon in the country. There are so many cases of enforced disappearance. So there is a direct threat to life, which is a very serious offense under our extant, criminal jurisprudence. So I believe that, well, he might apologize on the floor of the House, but he must be made to face the full wrath of law, so that other members of the House, whether at the House of Assembly or at the National Assembly, including governors and their appointees, presidency and their appointees, would know that in this generation, there are consequences when you flout the law, especially in high places. Because if you have a society where those who should ordinarily set example, are recklessly violating the law, then it will be justified. When an average citizen commits a crime and the average citizen questions you why you are prosecuting me, because it is discriminatory. If it was an average Nigerian that had committed that offense, I know that the citizen would not be in his workplace.
Yeah.
But you see that the Nigerian police force did not even detain him overnight.
And that's what I was about to get into, you know, that it is even beyond just a societal problem. I mean, I think it's the country that we live in, because the police itself seems to be very complicit in this case.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want you to, because if you listen to the story that the driver shared the next day, where he said that he was taken to the police station, he was kept behind the counter. You know, they went to the honorable member's house to go and interview him or to go and speak with him or whatnot. You know, and eventually came back. The person who assaulted him was let to go back home. It's a mess. He also, by himself, said that he wasn't going to call his police orderlies to deal with him. They will deal with him by himself. So there is a part where the policemen can be used to assault innocent citizens.
We have two criminal justice systems in Nigeria. I've said it over and over again. One is for the rich and one is for the poor. And that is what has played out. You just mentioned that when the young man went to report, he was kept behind for a few minutes of time.
Yeah.
Was the honorable member at any point in time kept behind bars? Was he detained at any point in time? That exemplifies the kind of system that we operate. One is for the rich and one is for the poor. The one operating right now is the one that belongs to the rich, where a murderer, an assaulter, someone who threatens the life of another person openly would encroach on the liberty of a citizen, encroach on the dignity of a citizen with reckless abandon. And these are people that have police orderly, these are people that have SSS, these are a set of individuals that have sometimes military men who follow them all about. They make use of this set of police officers, security agents, to encroach on the liberty and the dignity of our people. And this is the reason why there would be no real reform in the system, because the Nigerian political elite profits largely from the inadequacy of the system. We want a reformed policing system, but it is the same system that the Nigerian political elite profit from. It is the same system that helps them to rig election. It is the same system they use in oppressing opponents, activists, and the media. It is the same system that they use in encroaching anyone that dares question them. And this brings me to the question. Can an honorable member who feels an hailing rider cannot question him or make clarifications from him, can such a leader be accountable to his people? That has been a question, agitating my mind. That these our leaders do not see us as their true leaders, because we elected them, we are their leaders. They are our servants. But they do not see it that way. They see it as though we are their servants while they are their leaders. So I believe that while all of this happens, the Nigerian political elites are not accountable to the people. And they are not accountable to the people because they do not feel that we are even a set of people that should be accountable to. That is why it can refer to a citizen as an animal. This is the same citizen, because the transaction, the business operation of hailing organizations and logistics company are part of the revenue that the government generates. Now, this same revenue is what is used to pay the humongous allowances that the honorable members enjoy. So if that is the case, why should, under any circumstances, why should the honorable member treat the citizen with such indignity? So I feel that that apology is not enough. It should be prosecuted.
All right. So I think that now another question, we'll come back to talk about law enforcement, but let's talk about the law and what reliefs abound. Presumption of innocence, 36 subsection 5 of the Constitution, right? House of Rep has said that they will need to do an investigation, they need to hear from both sides. So there are those who would argue that, well, he's entitled to fair hearing regardless of what the evidence is. But there are those who would argue against it, saying he ought to have been suspended pending the investigation. If you go to the UK now, you look at the Labour Party, Mike Amesbury, who's a member of parliament, was seen assaulting someone physically and he was immediately suspended pending investigation. So bringing it back home here, what would be the maybe legal and the moral way to handle this? So give us a legal perspective. Would it be fair for some people to say, yes, he's entitled to fair hearing, there's presumption of innocence, but pending the point where he's properly heard, the evidence, the video evidence against him should apply and he should be temporarily suspended before the investigation?
Let me start from here. The Nigerian House of Representatives cannot investigate the matter because the House of Representatives is an interested party in the matter. They cannot be a judge in their own case. No, they cannot be a judge in their own case. That is one. Two, the Nigerian House of Assembly must refer the matter to the Nigerian Police Force, who under the Constitution and under the Nigerian Police Act are entitled to conduct thorough investigation and promptly charge the matter to court. There is a prima facie case of assault and threat to life. We cannot shy away from that. Yes, Section 36 of Section 5 of the Constitution is clear that a person who is accused of a crime is presumed innocent until the court says otherwise. We are not contending that. We are not contesting that. But what we are saying is that it should be made to face the full wrath of law. In any case, I do not know of any law in Nigeria that says that when you are accused of a crime, you should be suspended from conducting or participating as a member of the legislative.
So legally, the House is not bound to suspend.
I do not know of any law.
Okay.
And we have to be very careful about this. I will tell you why. You see, the honorable member is not representing himself. The honorable member is representing the good people of his constituency who had elected him into office. So, my perspective is that constitutionally, when he is suspended from not participating in the affairs of the House of Representatives, then his people are unduly prejudiced. Then his people are unduly denied of representation in the House. That cannot be the intention of the law. So if there is any slight issue, or if there is any infraction that is personal to the honorable member, then his people should be denied representation. That cannot be the intention of the law. I do not believe it should be suspended. But I know that he can be facing prosecution, he can be going to court, while equally attending to the House functions. If his people believe that, look, we are not comfortable with the way and manner that this whole, our honorable member is representing us, he has caused us embarrassment, we do not have confidence in him. There are procedures under the law that says you can recall a member of the House of Representatives.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've never seen that happen.
But, it has been tried, I think, with
Dino Melai, I think.
Dino Melai, it's failed. But if our people can organize, I've made analysis about it on how this can be done in line with law. If the people feel that, look, we are no longer comfortable with the way the distinguished member of the House of Representatives is conducting our affairs or representing us, they have a right to recall him. But to say that he should be suspended may be unfair. So not necessarily to him, but to the people he's representing.
I mean, it's left for the people of Aba North and South, to decide if they would like to try out a recall. But, while the investigation, if there will be an investigation, is ongoing for assault and threat to, to life and whatnot. What happens if, let's assume, in another, universe where Nigeria exists, that he is found guilty? What are the possible punitive measures that, that the law prescribes?
I know there are jail terms. I wouldn't know in Abuja or in the FCT, but I know there are jail terms for threat to life, and I also know, as a matter of fact, that there are jail terms for assault. But that is not even all. The man that was assaulted can also explore civil remedies under Section 34 of the Constitution, which guarantees the right to dignity of human beings. So, those are the two options left for him. But I'm afraid, this is my fear, I'm afraid that the Nigerian police force would not thoroughly handle the matter. I've said it both online and offline, that in my year of practice, I've not seen that the Nigerian police force wins any matter. Not because they do not necessarily win, but they hardly pursue their cases to a logical conclusion. That is another problem. When people say they want to go to court, people only take advantage of the system because an average person would find it difficult to perfect his bail. After bails are granted, how many cases do, on a quarterly basis, how many cases do the Nigerian police force say to a logical conclusion? I have friends that are prosecutors. Their IPOs will not come to court. The matter will be frustrated, and nobody will be asked any question. Now imagine it involving a powerful person. So maybe the media and the rest of our countrymen will put a very strong eyes on this matter so that it's not swept under the carpet. Right. And the matter, because it might be charged to court. Matters are charged to court.
Shouldn't it be a it might situation? Or should it be charged to court?
This matter might be charged to court. Might be charged to court.
Why might?
Because I do not trust the Nigerian police force. Because the last time I read, I was made to understand in the media that they are already exploring settlements. They are doing out of court. They are talking about alternative dispute resolution. Yeah. I read about that. I don't know if you did.
No.
I read about that. The honorable member has met with the assaulted man, and they are already discussing, trying to settle the matter out of court. This is the way of the Nigerian police force. And they only apply that when it involves highly placed men. And that is why he was bold enough to say that he will do whatever he wants to do, and he will get away with it. He knows that the system is not going to punish him.
In this case, if they are exploring settling out of court, is this a civil matter? Would you say it's a civil matter, that's an alternative, an option that exists?
This matter should not be settled out of court because it involves someone who should live above board. We must set a good precedent if we want this country to develop. An honorable member of the House who is paid by the resources of the people should not be found in this kind of scandalous situation. What the police should do is for him to be charged to court. But I'm afraid that even if the matter gets charged to court, we must talk about prosecutorial competence and diligence. Will the Nigerian police force ensure that the matter is thoroughly, diligently prosecuted? That's another question entirely. You are a lawyer, you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
A matter can be charged to court. We see that on a daily basis.
But then we'll be kicked out due to certain technical...
But the matter will just be kicked out because the investigative police officer, popularly known as IPOs, are not in court to testify so that the case can proceed. So 2-3 adjournments, the IPO cannot be found, the matter will be kicked out. Who punishes the IPO? Nobody. Yeah. If you call the IPO says I'll be transferred to Jos. The IPO says, who will pay me to come from Jos to come and testify in Abuja? That will be the end of the matter. So we are not just advocating that the matter should be charged to court. The matter should be thoroughly and diligently prosecuted. Yeah. And, I mean, I'm not saying they should persecute him, but the facts are open. I mean,
if you watch that video, there's so many things that easily jump out at you. First of all, how the man's rights has been infringed on. Yes, he assaulted him. He has a right to dignity of human person. You can't be looking at a human being like you, talking to him and calling him a rat and referring to him as a nobody. Threatening his life. So
it shows that the Nigerian political elite do not give a damn about an average Nigerian. You see, these people do not regard us as their leaders. They don't see us as people who elected them. They see us as second-class citizens. They don't give a damn about us. And that is why they know, he knows, the honorable member is aware that he will get away with it. If the matter has not gone to the media, or if it was not recorded, nothing is going to...
Speaking about recording, sorry, I just want you to quickly highlight that, because that's another issue that we oftentimes see that come up. In the subsequent video that he made, he talked about how when he went to the police station, he was being asked why he recorded it. And we see that happen a lot, where they tend to try to criminalize the act of recording situations. Is it a crime or an offense to record in the heat of any situation?
I do not know of any law that says that to record a crime is wrongful. There is no law in Nigeria that says when you record a police officer or when you record someone who is assaulting another person or someone who is committing a crime or a civil wrong, you say it's a crime. How? You cannot hide under Section 37 of the Constitution that says you have the right to privacy. Committing a crime is not one that should be shielded under the right of privacy. So that cannot be justified under any guise. Let's look at the Nigeria Data Protection Act enacted in 2023. There is nothing in that law that justifies criminalizing, recording video of police officers or any person who is committing a crime. Do you know that if the matter had not been recorded and put on the media space, that driver would be behind bars by now? Oh, the police will punish him. The police will detain him. The police will ask him questions. Why are you doing this? Do you know who he is? Do you know? Without even getting any comment from the honorable member. I'm telling you the truth. I mean, I've been doing this for a while. All my work has been more around, human rights and all of that. I can tell you that the Nigeria police will detain him. Yeah. If he's not careful, they will charge him to court.
Yeah, quickly, I think you earlier mentioned, how it would be unfair to the people of Aba North and South, if their lawmaker is suspended. The criminal code 252 and I think 351, talks about the punishment for assault, and I think it's about 1 year imprisonment. Isn't that also going to be infringing on the rights of the Aba people to have a representative in the House of Assembly if he is found guilty of assault and has to be jailed?
If he's found guilty of assault, there has to be another election. There has to be another election because the people of that constituency cannot be left unrepresented. And that is why, anytime the House of Representatives suspends anybody, says, oh, you cannot participate. When they go to court, the court will say, you cannot do that.
Yeah.
Because these persons have been elected by their people. And they ought to be guaranteed the representation accorded to them by the Constitution. That means you are shutting out, thousands of people who have elected him to represent them. So if he gets convicted, then we can be talking about another election. But our justice system will be talking about fines. Yeah. You can see fines as ridiculous as 50,000 naira that it would easily pay.
Yeah, well, I think, we initially had stated, that there's no, precedents to even refer to when the chairman of the Code of Conduct, had this case in Abuja then. you know, it didn't go anywhere. Elisha Abo as well, you know, I think it was fined 50 million, I believe, but, you know, there was nothing really to hold on to, you know, to show pure punitive measures, you know, against their sort.
The question is, was that 50 million naira paid?
Well, we don't know. All right, first also, thank you very much for joining us and for having this conversation with us. We would see how things turn out with mascot Ikweche and the House of Reps and, of course, the Nigerian police. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right.
Have a good day.
Stay with us this morning. Let's take a very quick break. When we come back, we have more conversations this morning on Breakfast Central. Welcome once again. A group of young Nigerians from Ondo State took to the streets in Abuja, storming the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC office to demand the removal of the Resident Electoral Commissioner, Oluwatoyin Babalola. The governorship election is slated for November 16, 2024. The protesters waved banners and placards with messages such as Mahmoud, redeploy Babalola now, and also, we don't want a repeat of Edo fiasco.
Protesters noted that their concerns stem from Babalola's alleged links to the ruling All Progressives Congress, which they believe could compromise the electoral process. Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde recently made similar demands, citing Babalola's background in Ondo as a potential threat to neutrality. Makinde emphasized the need for a free and fair election, urging INEC to ensure transparency and level playing ground for all candidates. We're joined this morning by public affairs analyst Catch Ononuju. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. INEC's admin secretary, Biodun Amoson, has assured the protesters that their demands will be handled by the INEC chairman, and he's also emphasized the importance of peaceful protest in democracy. But let's talk about the crux of, you know, what they're complaining about. They're talking about transparency and stating that, you know, this officer is linked to the All Progressives Congress. So is there a weight to their concerns, and do you think that this should be something that should maybe be granted, a removal, a redeployment, or whatsoever should be granted in this case?
We've seen it openly played where members of political parties with very deadly affinity to their parties are elected and appointed as umpires for these elections. We've seen that in Bayelsa State. You've seen it also happen in Edo State. And the complaints are coming. I think something has to be done about INEC. If INEC will still be, by law, the de facto electoral umpire across the country, then we must do something about appointing only those who we know and not openly card-carrying members of political parties. You know, the idea of this recurring every time simply tells you that despite our noises, that INEC is still as dirty as it has always been. So if we're talking about cleaning up the electoral process without looking at this issue of recruitment of card-carrying members of political parties into INEC, then I don't think we're serious about this. Some people advertise their vote just like we do. You can say that. And they are not ashamed the fact that they have families who not only sit on the benches to advocate over cases, but they also have members of their families inside the political umpire's office. So I think this is wrong. You have politicians now putting politically exposed persons right at INEC and on the judiciary. That, for me, is a no-no, and I believe if we will hold on to it, then it's bye-bye to free and fair and transparent elections. We will never have that. It will never happen.
Yeah, we've also seen, you know, some precedents. In Edo State, if you remember, you know, there were similar concerns. The PDP, I believe, in Edo State, you know, shared its concerns with INEC. But of course, you know, the electoral body went on, you know, to carry out the elections, even when the resident electoral commissioner, you know, is cousins with the FCT minister. There's also, I think, one other party, you know, that worked with INEC that was a registered member of the APC. So we've seen precedents. We've also, you know, seen it happen in River State, I believe, as well. The continuous clash of interest, the clash of the justice system with the electoral body, and of course, you know, the election's still going on, you know, this way. Why should, any Nigerian, seeing the way things play out, still get themselves ready to vote in any other future elections?
Well, I think what you're asking is, what do Nigerians do in face of the current state capture by these people? Thanks, you talked about Edo and Rivers. Nobody within the current political context does personify that abuse of the process like former Governor Wike, today's FCT minister. If the president keeps him as a minister, he has members of his family in INEC, members of his family in the judiciary, and he is not known to be polite publicly when it comes to this kind of things. That tells you that Nigeria is in a problem. So that's why I also look at it and I complain that what we have now are issues of state capture. Because for such human beings to be freely available in the system, to be given very juicy offices, and them to actively act in the way that they act, that tells you that something is wrong. The country is not going to get out of its current crisis about lack of free and fair election if people like Nyesom Wike are promoted in the way the current administration promotes him. It simply tells you that the administration does not care. Those insinuations, those linkages, they even will celebrate. So for me, that is a problem to the democracy. Where you now have politicians building houses for judges, and that's why there should be independence of the statutorily recognized bodies that should be free in the democracy, and that is the legislature should be free, the judiciary should be free, not where the politicians who we know to be election abusers, election riggers, they're now putting members of their family in INEC and the judiciary, and they are openly being celebrated. Nigeria is not yet ready for getting out of where we are in, and that's just like the last election. It was annulled, and then other things were imposed, and we were asked to keep quiet for the sake of peace. If we agree to such, it means we're not ready yet for a better country. We need to work at anything that we seek to achieve.
So are you saying in essence that the Ondo elections, we have 2 elections coming up in Ondo. We have the local government elections coming up January 18th. We have the gubernatorial elections coming up November 16th, I believe. So do you have any faith in these elections, or is it just going to be a waste of time?
No, I have no faith. You cannot have faith when the system has not changed. You see us doing the same things, you're not going to have any new outcome. You will have the same outcome like you had in Edo. It was muzzled, it was captured, just like other places. So now you have protagonists of state capture in power across the board. What are you going to get? So this will be a political period when Buhari came, fought, succeeded in destroying the judiciary by capturing Onogen and the court. And then as Buhari achieved that, the rest became history. They bulldoze everything. So right now we are in the period where Nigeria is under state capture until we work progressively to heal Nigeria from its current capture in the hands of protagonists of state capture. You don't think about a new outcome. No, the outcome will be the same. So for Ondo, I believe you will have the same strategies employed as were employed in Edo to achieve the state capture. The local government election is a different thing. The governors also capture the local government because nobody argues with them. See, to what it all boils down to is that our electoral processes are weak at both the local government and also the national level. So it is a holistic picture. Nigeria's electoral system is broken.
Yeah, that is, what you just described now is it's not necessarily a problem with the ruling class alone. It sounds like a Nigerian problem, a Nigerian citizen problem, because, for the state governorship elections, people might allege that it was being influenced by higher powers up there on the federal level, who, of course, are closer to the ANEC chairman. But we see, in Ondo State, the NNPP, just a couple of days ago, completely won the local government elections in Ondo State, all 44 local governments. In River State, the APP won 23, I believe, of all the local government elections. In Imo State, I believe, 20, I'm not sure how many now, local governments, but all won by the APC, I believe. So, and that is not necessarily a federal controlled election. Those are state controlled elections. We see the same things with, House of Assembly elections, a lot of times as well. So is it a fair argument to say that this is a Nigerian thing? That there's always people, right from the smallest factor of the electoral process all the way to the INEC chairman. These are allegations now. There's always one person or the other willing to thwart the process for a higher power, for whoever has the biggest pocket.
It is not a Nigerian thing. It's a situational historical thing. Nigeria doesn't need to be known for being a rogue society. No, it's not a Nigerian thing. It is a period in our life where we suffered state capture. State capture are like hard times. State capture doesn't last forever. State capture happens temporarily. The protagonist who capture it, hold it for a few times. Society organizes, reacts, comes, take back society. It happens this way. The soldiers did it under military rule, and we thought we couldn't come out. But we came out, and in 1999, we started. But then there were those people who weren't happy as we started doing that. As you heard from the World Bank, that when Buhari took over, Buhari now sought to reverse all the economic progresses that were made by the period from Obasanjo, Yar'Adua to Goodluck. All the economic gains, Buhari reversed them by up to 30%, and then set off a precipitation of declines across Nigeria. So that for us is historical. It's not a Nigerian thing, because it's a blip. It happens once in the life of nations. Look, it happens once.
Yeah, but my argument, Mr. Onoju,
in life of societies, if they don't change their ways.
Mr. Onoju, my argument
is a country, not a nation.
Yeah, my argument is really just pointing out, the fact that it happens in every state, in almost every state, under different political parties. It's not restricted to just the ruling party. Even other political parties pretty much do the same thing.
That's why I'm telling you, it's a current disease. Illness doesn't stay permanent in the body. When it comes, you treat it, it goes away. I believe this time will go away. I'm a very optimistic person. Look, I am happy to even see some of the things I've seen. Good, though painful, the economic realities of the regulation, what Tinubu has achieved, who did it before? Today, oil is taking off, and the government has gradually removed itself from its obstructive distortions of the energy market. Once the market becomes free and we float, we'll do other things. We have gas. We are home to the largest gas deposit in Africa, and we don't even know what to do with it. So let us settle down the Nigerian problem. Nigeria has crisis. It's a country, it's not yet a nation. Maybe now that we have seen that keeping quiet for Buhari to engineer state capture is evil, it rubs up most negatively on everybody. We will now come back, take back our country, and then try to fix things. I believe so. I have no doubt tough times don't last. What lasts are tough people. And this is a tough time in Nigeria. It's not a Nigerian thing. Every society suffers tough time. So we will get back our country from protagonists of state capture, and then we'll start to fix it with the knowledge of what we know. Yeah. If Buhari, according to World Bank, came in and then set the country back, losing our GDP by as much as a third, what do you think will happen?
Nigerians are really at the point where Nigerians are just tired of being tough people. It doesn't seem like we have any other choice, but we actually want soft life now. We're tired of being tough. We will continue to
do something. You can't be tired and you keep quiet. Do something.
Which is what we are doing. Speaking about...
You're not doing it. You're talking. Do something.
So what would you have us do?
Get on the streets. Societies do that. Get on the streets. Don't just stay in the comfort of your home and complain. Get on the streets.
But speaking about, as we wrap up the conversation, and I know that there are a number of people who will call for Nigerians to go on the streets and protest as well. You do see that the current reality does not encourage Nigerians to protest, even though protest is a right that is granted to Nigerians, a right enshrined in the Constitution. But we start to see that there's some clamping down happening. So how do Nigerians justify that? When people are just trying to earn a living, people are just trying to survive and make everyday work for them. But then even when they go out to protest, they've been arrested, they've been charged to court, and they've been warned not to protest. So how do people really balance that? Especially because the people that are affected are not those, at the top or those maybe really in the middle. It's those in the lower echelons of society. Those in the middle class and the top, the upper class hardly ever come out to protest.
Society must be doing good for a lot of them who don't come out. Most Nigerians are busy planning on how to be comfortable. Don't forget that. So that's why it's not that bad yet for all of them to get on the street. That's why they're not on the streets. So there may be a strong percentage of the population that say, get on the street for what? Change what? These people who are not serious, these people who will listen to primordial argument premised on despotism and even nepotism. And they will buy such arguments and then go out to react towards other Nigerians in line with the preachings of that argument. That is foolish. Why could you take such a person seriously? When you want to protest to save him, you rather stay in and don't worry about him. But I can tell you, the protests are on. The current generation of Nigerians are the first in Nigeria's history to be this young and to be this frontal. It has never happened before. So I believe society is changing. Look at where we are now. We can actually discuss this. In the days before, we can't. If truly those who try to gag society were successful, me and you wouldn't be having this conversation. I am telling you right now, the government has failed, and they have failed. So it will take time for these things to fill up, for these boils to boil up, for us to be able to get on the street. Maybe the gauge is not yet there. Maybe there were quite a lot of people still very, very, very constrained to being happy and being comfortable, and probably those who are suffering from the disease. You remember that disease, the Amsterdam disease? There might be those who are very comfortable in their captivity, and so they will listen to words premised on nepotism and other issues. But for me, things are not that bad. Yes, things are harsh due to the way the government has gone about removing the subsidy. The subsidies removal is good. If suddenly you have 92% drop in the daily consumption of petroleum products. So that means it was good, it was removed. So yes, you can say the government's problem is the lack of, the know-how in the ways to remove it. But removing the subsidy was the best economic decision ever done by a Nigerian government in over 20 years. So that's a good one. Let us now manage it. Now it's gone. They will now look at the wealth that we have in this country. This is a polite way towards, going your separate ways in doing things differently, but remaining as one nation. So I think we're getting very close to devolution of powers to the federative unit. How we'll do that, I don't know, but we are gradually moving there.
Thank you very much, Catch on for joining us this morning. We'll see how Ondo State turns out. Not very many people are expecting anything different from previous elections, but we'd like to speak with you again. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, but don't be too expectant in Ondo State. The thieves are still out there on the streets.
Oh, well, good luck to them. Now, we've had a pretty interesting, run so far. Let's share with you some of the things we've spoken about, and also what comes up next. Coming up, in a bit, we, of course, shared that Sano and Nasu are going to be beginning a nationwide strike. Fuel price hits 1,025 to 1,060 in Lagos and in other parts of the country. We're also going to be sharing with you the newspaper front pages and also which way Nigeria. And now let's take you through the newspapers this morning and share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this Wednesday morning. Starting with the Punch newspapers, the major stories there say, again, an NPCL hikes petrol price, fixes 1,060 naira per litre. refinery faults fuel importers. Tinubu summons Waleadun, Dangote, and Kyari. If you remember, I think in the news lately, there's also been statements from Dangote, accusing the marketers and, of course, the NNPC, I believe, of not buying his petrol. Also on the Punch, 2025 budget, Tinubu submits MTEF to National Assembly next week. Anti-party, Arigbeshala camp, mom as APC suspends the ex-governor. 32 states got 55% of revenue from FACTS, says a report. And also, stop ad hoc dollar auctions, World Bank tells CBN. 17 northern states blackout to end on the 12th of November. Seems like he's in the north, apparently. We've not had power for about a week now. It's going to be a week today. These are the major stories on the Punch newspapers this morning.
All right, let's move away from the Punch paper to our next paper. And the next paper we have this morning is the Daily Independent newspaper. On the front page of the Daily Independent, big story, Tinubu meets Dangote, others, assesses Naira-based crude oil sales. And we also have some riders there. Policy has set Nigeria's economy on path of industrialization, according to Edu. Dangote says retailers ignoring 500 million liters of fuel in his tank farm, alleges marketers and others' preference for imported petroleum products. Binance executive, United Nations Security Council permanent seat, top Tinubu-Biden phone discussion. Service disruptions, FCCPC warns banks against violation of customers' rights. Wow, Happy New Year, FCCPC, and good morning. Federal government doles out 500 million naira to Nigerian Legion as Tinubu lauds armed forces. Over 3.6 million Nigerians diabetic, 53% undiagnosed, says minister. Government, media must unite to move Nigeria forward, Shetima tasks editors. NNPC increases petrol price to 1,050 naira in Abuja and 1,025 naira in Lagos. Reps probe misconduct allegations against lawmaker Ikweche. Senate passes bill to enhance NDIC capacity to safeguard bank depositors. Vandalism, insecurity, reason blackout persists in northern states, according to federal government, assures electricity expected before weekend. That's all on the Daily Independent. Let's move now to our next paper.
All right, the next newspaper this morning is the Daily Trust newspapers. And right there on your screen, you can see the lead story. Customers express frustration as banks' IT glitches linger. This particular bank that has had its customers in a chokehold.
Yep, everybody knows the
bank. Also on the Daily Trust this morning, Osun APC suspends Arigbeshala over anti-party activities. Sultan is alive, Sultanate Council says. Gunmen sacked 23 communities in Niger. Ogun Shot School suspends principal over student's death. And also again, petroleum price rises. 750 million naira raised as Tinubu unveils Armed Forces Remembrance emblem. Power outage, bandits targeting Shiro's 330 kilovolts lines for long, says locals. And those are the major stories on the Daily Trust newspapers. You can, definitely find out more if you, open up these papers or grab a copy of these newspapers on your way to work this morning.
Right.
Punch.
Okay.
Newspapers, of course, has the big one that I think everyone is concerned about, and which is the petrol price increase, the possible petrol price increase. NNPC did put out a notice rather, saying that they are not aware of any increase so far. But I think Nigerians are saying, from their visiting the NNPC petrol stations, that the pump price seems to have increased. But for me and of course a lot of other people, I think that there's nothing really brand new about seeing 1,025 or 1,060. I have been buying petrol at 1,100 for the last couple of weeks now.
So I think what's bad about that is if you've been buying petrol for 1,100, if NNPC officially increases to 1,025, it's obviously going to be like 1,200 and 1,300, really.
Maybe not that high, but
well, people will capitalize because what we've seen is different stations have their different rates. There's no unified rate, for buying petrol. Yep. If you go to certain filling stations, it's cheaper. Those ones have longer queues. Certain filling stations are more expensive. But just to mention that before we get into the stories, we have one more paper, but to let you know that if you'd like to react to any of the stories, the number to call is on your TV screen. Share with us your thoughts on any of the stories or your experiences so far. We have one more paper that we're looking at this morning, our final paper for the morning, and this one is the Daily Times newspaper. On the front page of the Daily Times newspaper, the big story there says, Nigeria loses $2.5 billion in 5 years over non-implementation of tracking notes, according to SCN. There's a rider there that says, Sanwo-Olu sues EFCC, alleging plans to arrest and prosecute him in 2027. That's an interesting story to begin with. And then we have at the top of the paper, House of Rep to investigate Rep Ikweche after alleged assault on Bolt driver. Federal government donates 500 million naira to Nigerian Legion as Tinubu extols military. Senate amends NDIC Act to safeguard banked depositors' funds, stabilize institutions. Nigeria's energy transition attracts $500 million in 10 months. Naira for crude, Dangote highlights positive outcomes from initiative. And that's all that we have on paper. I think there's a picture there. Operation Delta Sanity, Nigerian Navy ship Scotch deactivating an illegal refining site with a reservoir laden with, that's a bit difficult to read, with a large amount of crude oil in Bayelsa State. All right, and now we're going into the details of the stories here in the papers. And again, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to react to any of the stories, please call the numbers on your TV screen to share with us what your thoughts are and to share your experiences regarding any of the stories. Let's begin now with, okay, yes, I want to quickly touch on the House of Reps story again. We talked about it earlier. But just to mention that it's important because we see this happen not just in the House of Representatives. We've seen it happen in different arms here, in different sectors and different industries where a wrong is committed or an offense is committed and the organization decides that they're going to do the investigation. A party cannot be a judge in his own cause. You know, it's illegal to do that. You can't do that. One of the principles, one of the pillars of justice is based on, I mean, if I say it in Latin, nemo judex in causa sua, you cannot be a judge in your own cause, right? So if the House of Rep is under fire here because a member of the House of Rep has assaulted a citizen that he's meant to serve, respect, and protect, it is not on the House of Rep to conduct the investigation that will determine the guilt or the innocence of the man. Yes, there's a presumption of innocence, but there's a prima facie evidence that can be presented against him by the video that was seen. But okay, the police does have its role and its responsibility to investigate and then take this matter to court. But the House of Rep is not laden with the primary responsibility of investigating this. It's just like when we've had situations of the army where they've been wrongful or what they would refer to as accidental killings. And the army says they're going to do the investigation within themselves. You are a party there. There's no way that you're going to investigate and find yourself at fault because there's a conflict of interest there. So just to highlight that the House of Representatives can go on and conduct whatever investigation it needs to conduct. But primarily, the Nigerian police has the responsibility to conduct this investigation. But I want us to move away from that story and then talk about another story. About Sanwo-Olu, the governor of Lagos State, suing EFCC, alleging plans to arrest, prosecute him in 2027. I saw that story. You know, I'm hoping that, you know, we can have an official confirmation from the government to find out if this is if it's just a ruse or, you know, if it really is a true story. And we've seen this happen in a number of cases where some people will try to stop law enforcement agents from prosecuting them. And the argument against that would be that if you have clean hands, you have nothing to hide, nothing to fear, you should be okay with them doing whatever prosecution and investigation. And if you then find out that you go to the court and, you know, the law was set wrongfully in motion against you, then you can sue them for harassment or whatever it is, for wasting your time, for defaming you because the public now knows that you have to go to court for certain issues that you probably didn't commit. But I think that this action of, and you know, hearing stories like this is why people will argue against the immunity clause, saying that the immunity clause protects a number of these officials, governors and presidents whilst they're in office. And inadvertently, even though they don't expressly say that, we find that the immunity clause extends beyond the time in office. Not legally, but, you know, on paper, we see that, or off the record, it extends beyond. Because how many governors have we seen that have really, I mean, it has happened in a few cases, yes, but it's not the norm to see that typically when you're out of office, you'll be investigated. Look at Yahaya Bello, former governor of Kogi State, whom till today has been declared wanted. Can they really say that they don't know where Yahaya Bello is? In Nigeria, Yahaya Bello is hiding from the EFCC, from law enforcement, and law enforcement can't fish him out. These are the people that will tell you that they can bring out any person in 24 to 48 hours from wherever they're hiding. So it's not the norm to see that. And this is why we hear arguments against the immunity clause. If you have nothing to hide, okay, let them take you to court. Go and defend yourself. He who has nothing to fear, you have clean hands, appear before the court. And then when you've been able to show through your defense that there is nothing or whatever charges leveled against you are incorrect. And if you feel that that has in any way damaged your reputation as a person or wasted your time, then you can sue them for damages.
Yeah.
I would think that would be a better approach to take.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, with regards to Yaya Bello, it's pretty much the same thing that Festus Ogun had mentioned, that there seems to be two criminal justice, acts working in Nigeria, two legal systems rather working in Nigeria. There's the one for the poor, and then there's the one for the rich. Because if it was the random average Nigerian citizen, who was declared wanted by the police, he would be found wherever he is in any part of, the country. But, suddenly, our next governor just, wears his invisible cloak every morning and walks around the streets and nobody can see him. Well, let's speak with Matthias. Good morning, Matthias. Good morning. Yes, morning, welcome, go ahead.
I'm calling from Ondo State, the state capital.
Good to have you, go ahead.
You see, when I watched that video from that House of Rep member, it's quite disheartening. A young man for that matter will be primarily for young people in leadership positions. Is that what a young man can do? In our country, once you are rich, you have immunity. You can do anything, and you go scot-free. What happened at that House of Rep member residence? If it is any other commandment, by now, they will arrest that person. But you see, they will normally say, yes, we'll investigate, we'll look at the issue. That is natural.
All right, it seems our network is disconnected with Matthias. We hope that you can call back and then we can wrap up the conversation. But yes, he's raised a valid point. If he was a common man, when we hear situations like this that blow up on social media with the magnitude with which his case has blown up, by now an arrest would have been made. So why has the police not arrested him?
No, I mean, Festus Ogun once again mentioned it. If it was the rider that attacked the House of Rep member, he would not be at work
of course
the next day.
That day he would not been arrested.
Yes, he wouldn't make it through the week without spending a couple of days in police custody, if not more. So, I mean, again, there is clearly two justice systems that work in Nigeria, one for the rich and one for the poor. It is the same thing that, and I need to read in detail the letter written by Governor Sanwo-Olu. I saw it, yesterday, but I didn't read in detail. But it's the same thing that is making the governor to put out that letter, and of course suing the EFCC ahead of time, because they know that the criminal justice system and the institutions that they failed to fix can either work in their favor or work against them. If we had a criminal justice system and institutions across the country that you are certain that you can trust the sanctity and the sincerity of those institutions, nobody will be scared of a police charge for any reason. Because you know that you will go to court, you will have your day in court, and you will be found innocent.
Absolutely, right. Let's hear from Mohammed. Good morning, Mohammed.
Yeah, good morning.
All right, please go ahead.
I really want to compliment you guys for doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really want to compliment you guys for doing a great job. But following your programs over time, I've not seen anybody who has come to the studio to really talk about the basis of our problem on petroleum. Because I remember, nothing from your last audience, I think, Mr. Obonojo, that just left your studio. All his complaint was that, yes, from the International Monetary Fund, Buhari has brought us, the former regime has brought us back.
All right.
Okay. Seems that has been disconnected as well. Mohammed, we hope you can call back. Was he saying that he hasn't heard us bring anybody to talk about petroleum sector?
Yeah,
I'm not sure
I think, he maybe hasn't gotten a satisfactory analysis on, the petroleum, issues.
Because we have been talking about it. We've had Ukadike Chinedu, who's the spokesperson of IPMAN, comment on the show several times. We've had Kaluaja, come
there
to
have been multiple
analyze.
energy experts,
Yes,
also
we've
join
had
us. So,
several.
but I think the main challenge is there's a lot of angles that are X-rayed. When we bring IPMAN, we want to hear from the IPMAN and the petroleum marketers, side of it. When we bring energy experts, we're trying to understand, what might be playing out with the NNPC and with Dangote and with the Nigerian government. You would very rarely see a staff of NNPC come and speak. Neither will you see, the Minister for Petroleum, Minister of State for Petroleum, go on television interviews to speak. And so, I think I said it before, that lack of clarity continues to leave news media organizations creating their own analysis, mostly in the dark. The lack of clarity, lack of communication, the lack of truth as well.
Because
it leaves everybody in the
says
dark.
one thing. Independent marketers
says another thing.
The latest update to Dangote is saying that the marketers are not buying from him and they're rather choosing to import.
Yes.
And in our last conversation with Ukadike Chinedu of IPMAN, he had said the willing buyer, willing seller model has been implemented, is being implemented, that they had a meeting with Dangote and they're ready to offtake and that they're about to set structures by their next meeting to ensure that, there will be no fuel scarcity because they would offtake from Dangote. So why exactly is this not happening? For the longest time, initially was, NNPC sole offtaker. Later, NNPC is no longer sole offtakers. Marketers can now get from Dangote. So what really is the true picture? It feels like there's a missing piece of the puzzle that we're not yet able to fit in, because everybody has a side of the story that when you listen to them, makes some sort of logical sense. But why, again, is this still an issue?
Yeah.
Why is there still scarcity? Why do we still not have access to products? And why does the price still keep climbing?
Yeah, and of course, again, lack of clarity, lack of truth, lack of honesty from the government side and from, every major player and major stakeholder, that should answer these questions. And also from, complete silence also from the National Assembly. Because if you have this level of chaos in the petroleum sector, you would expect that the members of the National Assembly, people like Mascot Ekweche, the snail enthusiast, people like him should be raising, panels in the National Assembly to question members from the NNPC and from the Ministry of Petroleum. But, of course,
because if he had done something like that,
peppered snail
maybe the taxi driver would have been in a good mood, because he's probably upset now with the amount of petrol that he's buying. Both parties would have been okay.
My point is,
the
the silence from the National Assembly also is very, very telling,
loud,
in a time like this. Another story that I think is pretty interesting to point out is the story on the top left corner of the Punch. It says 17 northern states blackouts to end on the 12th of November.
Wow.
There has been, repeated complaints for the last few weeks about a complete blackout in northern Nigeria, electricity blackout. So let's quickly speak with Raymond, and then we'll talk about this right after. Good morning, Raymond.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Raymond, calling from Abuja.
Morning, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Raymond. Go ahead.
Yeah, in Nigeria, we keep clamoring for the youth to be in power. Basically, check what happened between that House of Reps member and the boat driver. You see that it's not really good for some youth to have power, because the way he assaulted that boat driver was very wrong. In this country, you see the system. The system is so corrupt in the sense that you see the rich and the poor, with the judiciary system of government is only for the rich, and then the ones for the poor, which the rich always keep on operating the poor. Assuming it was the boat driver that assaulted the man, by now that guy will be in the cell, police cell. And look at today as we are speaking, nothing has been done.
Right.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Indeed it is,
These
Raymond.
things need to be taken care of very well.
All right. Thank you very much,
It's
Raymond.
a clarion call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. It's really so sad. Thank you so much for calling. And I mean, I think we're all on the same page. This is the one time I know that Nigerians all agree collectively that Alex Ikweche should be made to pay for his crimes against this man, because that really is what Nigerians have seen to be the reality. Those in positions of power and influence taking advantage of those beneath them. Do you know who am I is usually the first line that they use to threaten other people. So yes, we do certainly will continue to talk about this and hope that the necessary measures are taken and the police swings into action. Another story I'd like us to quickly take on the front page of the Daily Trust, and I think that this is a frustration that almost every Nigerian in Nigeria can relate to. We're seeing the big story there. Customers express frustration as banks' IT glitches linger. If you also look at the Daily Independent front page, at the bottom left, we see the service disruption, bottom left of Daily Independent. It says, service disruptions. FCCP warns banks against violation of customers' rights. And I think that it's been the most frustrating time for Nigerians living in Nigeria, and even Nigerians in the diaspora, to make transactions. Off the top of my head, I can think of maybe one or two banks, but there's a bank in particular that has frustrated life for Nigerians, and it's absolutely ridiculous. If you entrust a bank with the responsibility of taking care of your money, you keep this money there. There's a contract between you and the bank that when you need your money is available to you. And they have done upgrades. A number of these banks have been having upgrades. But upgrading your bank or your systems should not impact on my ability to access funds. Several times in the past month, you know, I've been wanting to get cash. I mean, you've been witness to it. I need to make a transfer. I can't access my app. And this is the complaints that a number of people have. In a country that is trying to push towards being cashless. I mean, that was what the last administration was trying to push for when they were changing the Naira. They were trying to return all the cash into the bank vaults. If we're trying to push to be a cashless society, is this how we end up being a cashless society? By doing an upgrade. Later we're criticizing INEC and beavers and all the things that come up. We're quick to shout and say that INEC is not capable. But our banks are also doing the same thing. Our banks are ensuring that, not all, just to mention, some banks, you know, are doing the same thing. So it's just to ensure that they really understand that there's a duty of care that they owe to Nigerian citizens, a duty of care to ensure that when we need our monies are accessible to us. And the joy that I've had now is the ability to have multiple bank accounts, because once I have access to this bank that's holding my money and causing trouble, I just quickly move it to another bank.
Yeah,
So,
you have a lot of money, that's why. Good morning,
Wow.
Baba.
Wow.
Everybody agreed to.
Good morning.
To you.
Good morning. Good to have you. Baba, thanks for calling.
My sister, my brother, this issue of petrol, where are we heading to? Because before that will come on stream, people have been saying, this will be a game changer, this will be a game changer. And here it is, language is now on stream, and it is not El Dorado that I thought would happen. It is now calamity. So what is really going on in that industry? And this man has just, appointed some ministers. What is he doing about that oil industry? There is a lot of disarray, confusion, and it did not touch the NNPC at all. So what is the problem with Mr. President? Has he got an hidden agenda with this GMD of the NNPC? Because we all met in the NNPC and with some protest some time ago that this man should be removed, and yet Tinubu refused to remove this man. So what is the big camaraderie between the PFG of the NNPC and Tinubu? Because like that, somebody else should have been put in that area. So this man has been there for the past 28 years, because it started with Buhari, and the whole place was in confusion then. And now, Tinubu is pushing ahead with it. Why? Nigerians are suffering, and Tinubu is not saying anything about that. People should come to Nigerians. You say the NNPC, when the president will come on street, we will buy petrol 600 naira. Now it's over 1,000 plus. So where are we heading to? And why are Nigerians keeping quiet?
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Baba, for your thoughts this morning. I think, we'll probably just wrap up, by once again saying our hearts and thoughts go out to, those who are currently affected by the blackout in the 17 northern states that has been reported. It is said to be ending on the 12th of November, according to what the federal government is saying.
Imagine what will
and
happen
I don't-
between now and the 12th of November, really.
Yeah,
That's the whole 13 more days.
But it really just shows, the infrastructural deficit in our power sector, that we're not able to have proper alternatives to power 17 states of the country. It also shows the almost lack of importance and economic importance that the federal government places on those regions, to have them out of power for that long and not have heads already on the table, not have people already fired for incompetence. That's, for me, is pretty glaring, that you have people in positions of power, the heads of ministries, heads of different, MDAs that concern, the electricity sector, the power sector, that can leave a whole region without power for that long and have a good enough excuse to tell the Nigerian government why they should not be fired. It's interesting. All right.
All right. We'll keep talking about this, and let's see what becomes of it. Hopefully, these people find a way to get around it, because honestly, we don't see a way around it. No power, expensive fuel prices, and yet they still have to make a living. Speaking about fuel prices, Nigeria's fuel prices have taken another hit with the latest hike by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and NPCL. Yesterday, petrol prices increased to 1,025 per litre in Lagos and 1,060 naira per litre in Abuja. This marks the third price change in September and October 2024, leaving many Nigerians frustrated. There have been questions around the timing of this hike, considering the international crude oil price has dropped by 8% to $72 per barrel. The sudden increase has caught some filling stations off guard, with many still selling at the old rate.
Now, this development comes just a week after President Bola Tinubu announced that his administration had found a solution to the fuel hike, allowing motorists to buy petrol at 1,000 naira per litre or equivalent gas at 200 naira per standard cubic meter. The president expressed optimism that investing in compressed natural gas CNG will alleviate the pressure of fuel price hikes. And we did have, a seemingly extended conversation on this yesterday, and just basically to tell Nigerians the little details, what it means, and how affordable it also will be to get compressed natural gas, and of course usage as well. How long will it take? Safety concerns most importantly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, but just to mention as well that regardless of the fact that, yes, we're seeing an increase across board, the spokesperson of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Olufemi Shoneye, has said that he's not aware of any fresh premium motor spirit pump price increase across its retail outlets. So if the NNPC is saying that they're not aware of any increase, but the reality of Nigerians who go to this filling station is that there has been an increase. Again, it points to the fact that there is a missing piece in the puzzle. We're not sure exactly what the missing puzzle is, but that puzzle needs to be fixed soon. We will talk about this, and maybe if you have some exposure in this regard, you have experiences that you'd like to share with us, please share with us at News Central TV. And also make sure that you're tagging the NNPC, because NNPC needs to understand that it's one thing for them to say they're not aware, but the reality of Nigerians is that they're having to buy fuel at their depot at a more expensive price. We'll quickly move away from the NNPC conversation to bring you what Nigerians, which way Nigeria, the monologue that usually would tug at the heart of some of the most important questions the Nigerians have.
One of the biggest and most glaring flaws about the Nigerian mentality is how quickly intoxicated the average Nigerian gets with just a little taste of power. You see it from the highest office to the lowest, from governors to ministers to even estate gate men. It's like a drug stronger than cocaine, that immediately a person gains some tiny drop of power, they automatically see themselves as mini gods. Immediately a person is able to elevate himself. So, of course, the Nigerian way is to have police escorts and black Toyota SUVs. They immediately want to be seen and treated as gods. You see, a local government chairman or House of Assembly member, even a House of Representatives member, who was nobody a couple of months ago, maybe in January, suddenly seeing himself as a mini god by April because, he won elections and somehow now moves around with escort vehicles and sirens. honorables without honor. The people they campaign to serve now become peasants in their eyes, calling themselves honorable when there's absolutely nothing honorable about them. Because, I mean, what is honorable about a person who threatens his fellow citizen that he will lock him in his generator house? What is honorable about repeatedly slapping your fellow Nigerian because of snail? What is honorable about threatening to make your fellow citizen disappear? Again, there is nothing honorable about that honorable. The person who sought the votes of the people of Aba North to find himself a place in the National Assembly suddenly became a god that no man can dare to speak with him without respect. They say that the worst crime to self is to be poor in Nigeria, because if you are poor or you look poor in our society, you lose all form of respect and human rights. You can be stepped on and degraded by anyone who just has a slight degree of wealth. Our society has zero respect for the poor. Our society has a different legal system for the poor even. The policemen who are paid with taxpayers' money to provide and enforce law and order will be used to oppress you. A politician will order his police orderlies to physically assault you to his satisfaction and even brag that the Inspector General of Police will do nothing to him. The one that went to Abuja to represent his people is ordering snail at night, while the people he represents cannot afford 3 decent meals a day. And you dare not ask him to come and take the same snail that he ordered outside. Can you just imagine the audacity of someone who was meant to be a lawmaker in Nigeria? He showed us touching the sky in that position as lawmaker. Again, an honorable without honor. We live in a very broken society, ladies and gentlemen. A society that is sick and needs healing. A society where it is risky to be poor or without influence because you might just end up in the generator house of some lawmaker or even missing because of snail. Again, honorable without honor. Good morning, Nigerians.
And as we wrap up the show, we hope that that piece can get you to think about how you can live your life every day with honor, whether as an honorable or as an everyday Nigerian. And on that note, we come to the end of today's show. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back again same time tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Stay tuned for our subsequent shows from 9 a.m. up until the rest of the day. I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogi Ogbawa. See you tomorrow.